Princess Lyrasen stood before the massive windows of the imperial palace, watching three suns set over the capital city of Valara Prime. Her crystalline skin shifted from soft purple to deep blue as she waited. When the palace guards summoned her to the throne room, she knew something important was about to happen. The throne room was enormous, with walls made of living crystal that pulsed with light. Her mother, Empress Kiravel, sat on the throne with perfect posture. Around her stood the Imperial Council, their faces serious and unreadable. Lyrasen walked forward and bowed deeply. "My daughter," the Empress said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "Come closer." Lyrasen approached the throne, her heart beating faster. She had been a princess for 127 years, but her mother's formal tone still made her nervous. Something was wrong. "The war with the humans has lasted too long," the Empress began. "Too many of our people have died. Too many of their people have died. The Terran coalition has proposed a peace treaty." Lyrasen's skin flickered with hope. Peace would be wonderful. The border worlds had suffered so much during the fighting. But why did her mother look so troubled? "There is a condition," Empress Kiravel continued. "To prove our commitment to peace, they have asked for a royal marriage. You will marry a human officer named Captain Tae-Yang." The words hit Lyrasen like a physical blow. Her crystalline skin flashed bright red with shock and anger. "A human?" she whispered. "Mother." "No." The council members remained silent, watching her reaction. Lady Nelvith, her closest attendant, looked away sadly. "I understand your feelings," the Empress said, her own skin flickering with sympathy. "But this is not a request. This is your duty as a princess of the Valerian Empire." Lyrasen's mind raced. Humans were short-lived creatures, barely living 100 years. They were primitive compared to her people, who could live for thousands of years. The Valerian nobles already whispered about humans behind closed doors, calling them barbarians and warmongers. "But Mother," Lyrasen said, trying to keep her voice steady, "humans only live for such a short time. In 50 years, he will be dead, and I will still be young. How can this be a proper marriage?" "Perhaps that is exactly why this matters," the Empress replied. "The humans defeated our finest fleets with ships that should not have won. They refused to surrender even when we surrounded their planets. They protected their civilians, even when it meant certain death for their soldiers. We have underestimated them, Lyrasen. Perhaps it is time we learned why they are so strong." Lyrasen wanted to argue more, but she saw the determination in her mother's eyes. The decision was already made. Nothing, she said, would change it. "When?" she asked quietly. "You will travel to the neutral station Unity's Hope in 3 days. The wedding will take place in 2 weeks. That gives you time to meet him and prepare." Lyrasen bowed again, hiding her face so no one could see her skin cycling through colors of anger, fear, and sadness. "As you command, Your Majesty." That night, Lyrasen sat in her private chambers and read every file she could find about Captain Tae-Yang. The computer screen glowed in the darkness as she studied his military record. He was 28 years old, so young by Valerian standards, yet already a decorated war hero. His service record showed numerous commendations for bravery. He had fought in the Battle of Proxima Gate, where a Valerian fleet ambushed a group of civilian transports trying to evacuate a human colony. Lyrasen read the battle report carefully. Captain Tae-Yang's squadron had been assigned to protect the transports. When the Valerian ships attacked, he ordered his pilots to form a defensive line while the civilians escaped. One by one, his squadron was destroyed, but they bought enough time for every civilian ship to reach safety. Tae-Yang's ship was the last one, badly damaged but still fighting until the transports jumped to safety. The report said he spent 3 weeks in a medical unit recovering from his injuries. When he woke up, he learned that all 12 pilots in his squadron had died. He was the only survivor. Lyrasen stared at the screen for a long time. She had expected to read about a brutal warrior, someone who enjoyed killing. Instead, she found a soldier who sacrificed everything to protect innocent people. It reminded her of her younger brother, who had died protecting a Valerian colony from raiders. Still, that did not change the facts. He was human. He would age and die while she remained young. The other nobles would mock her forever, married to someone they considered beneath her. Lady Nelvith entered the room quietly, carrying a tray with evening tea. "Your Highness, you should rest. Tomorrow, we'll be busy with preparations." "Nelvith," Lyrison said softly, "do you think I am being selfish? Wanting to refuse this?" The older Valerian woman sat down beside her. "You are thinking of yourself, yes, but you are also thinking of your people. That is not selfish. That is the burden of being royal." "I do not want to marry a stranger," Lyrison admitted, "especially not one who will be gone so quickly." "Perhaps he feels the same way," Nelvith suggested. "He did not choose this either. You both are trapped by duty." Lyrison had not thought about that. The human captain was probably just as unhappy about this arrangement. He was being forced to marry an alien princess from a species that had killed his friends and comrades. He probably thought she was some cold, arrogant royal who looked down on his entire race. "Come," Nelvith said gently. "Rest now. In 3 days, you will meet him and see for yourself what kind of person he is. Until then, there is no point in worrying." Lyrison nodded and stood up from her desk. As she prepared for sleep, she looked out the window one more time at the 3 moons rising over the city. Somewhere out in space, on some human world, Captain Taeyang was probably looking at the stars too, thinking about the alien princess he was being forced to marry. She wondered what he saw when he looked at those stars. Did he see beauty? Or did he just see the vast darkness between worlds? In 2 weeks, she would become his wife. The thought made her skin flash with anxiety. She took a deep breath and forced herself to turn away from the window. Whatever happened, she would face it with the dignity expected of a Valerian princess. That was all she could do. The journey to Unity's Hope Station took 2 days. Lyrison spent most of that time in her quarters, avoiding the other Valerian nobles who traveled with her. She could hear them whispering in the corridors, their voices full of pity and amusement. Poor Princess Lyrison, forced to marry a primitive human. Lady Nelvith tried to comfort her, but Lyrison did not want comfort. Unity's Hope was a massive space station built specifically for diplomatic meetings between different species. It floated in neutral space, belonging to no one. When Lyrison's ship docked, she saw human ships on the other side of the station. Her skin flickered nervously between purple and pale blue. "Remember," Nelvith whispered as they walked through the station corridors, "you represent all of Valara. Stand tall." Lyrison lifted her chin and forced her skin to stay a calm, controlled blue. She would not show weakness in front of humans. The meeting chamber was enormous, decorated with symbols from both Valerian and human cultures. It looked strange, the 2 styles clashing awkwardly. Human Ambassador Haewon stood on one side of the room with several human officers. On the other side, waited Valarian dignitaries. "Your Highness," Ambassador Haewon said, bowing respectfully. "Welcome to Unity's Hope. Captain Taeyang will arrive shortly." Lyrison nodded but said nothing. Her hearts were beating too fast. What would he look like? The pictures in his military file showed a serious face with dark eyes, but photographs never showed the real person. The door opened and everyone turned to look. Captain Taeyang walked into the room, and Lyrison went completely silent. He was not what she expected at all. She had imagined someone large and brutal, with scars and cold eyes. Someone who looked like he enjoyed war. Instead, she saw a man of average height, with calm, steady movements. He wore a formal human military uniform that was simple but dignified. His face did have scars, thin lines across his left cheek, but they did not make him look cruel. They made him look tired, like someone who had seen too much suffering. But what truly stopped her from speaking were his eyes. Dark brown eyes that looked at her with respect, not curiosity or disgust. Most people stared at her crystalline skin like she was a strange museum display. He simply looked at her like she was a person. Taeyang walked forward and stopped a respectful distance away. Then, he bowed deeply, the kind of bow that showed genuine respect, not just formality. When he straightened up, he spoke in Valerian. His pronunciation was careful and slightly awkward, but he was trying. "Your Highness," he said quietly, "I know neither of us chose this, but I give you my word. I will honor you, even if you can never love me." Lyra Sen's skin flickered rapidly through multiple colors. Purple surprise, blue confusion, a flash of something she could not identify. She had not done that since she was a child, losing control of her emotions so completely. Everyone in the room was staring at her, waiting for her response. But she could not find words. Her prepared speech vanished from her mind. Taeyang extended his hand for a formal greeting, the human custom. His hand was trembling slightly. He was nervous too. That small detail broke through her shock. This powerful human warrior was afraid, just like her. Slowly, Lyra Sen reached out and took his hand. His skin was warm, so much warmer than Valerian skin. Her cool crystal surface touched his warm human flesh, and for a moment neither of them moved. "Captain," she finally managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. Ambassador Hei-Won cleared her throat. "Shall we proceed with the formal introductions?" The ceremony continued, but Lyra Sen barely heard any of it. She spoke when required, nodded at the appropriate times, but her mind was elsewhere. She kept glancing at Taeyang, trying to understand what she was feeling. He stood straight and proper, answering questions from the Valerian dignitaries with patience. When they asked insulting questions about human lifespan and culture, he did not get angry. He simply answered honestly. Yes, humans lived shorter lives. Yes, their technology was less advanced. But they valued every moment they had, and they fought to protect what they loved. One Valerian noble asked rudely, "How can a marriage work when you will be old and dying while our princess is still young and beautiful?" Taeyang's jaw tightened slightly, but his voice remained calm. "I cannot offer her immortality. I can only offer her my loyalty and respect for whatever time we have together. If that is not enough, I understand." Lyra Sen felt something shift in her chest at those words. He was not pretending this would be easy. He was being honest about the difficulty they faced. After the formal ceremony ended, Lyra Sen was escorted to her assigned quarters. They were luxurious, decorated in Valerian style. Nelvith helped her remove her formal robes and prepare for rest. "You did not speak much, Your Highness," Nelvith observed carefully. "No," Lyra Sen admitted. "I did not. May I ask why?" "Was he so terrible?" Lyra Sen sat down slowly, her skin shifting through colors as she thought. "I expected a monster, someone brutal and arrogant, someone who would treat me like a prize he won in war." "And?" Nelvith prompted. "His eyes," Lyra Sen said softly. "They were sad, like he has lost everything important to him and is still trying to be strong. I have seen those same eyes before." "Where?" "In the mirror," Lyra Sen whispered. "After my brother died." Nelvith sat beside her and took her hand. "Then perhaps you two have more in common than you thought." That night, Lyra Sen could not sleep. She kept thinking about the way Taeyang's hand had trembled when he reached out to her. The way he spoke Valarian, despite clearly struggling with the language. The way he stood calm and dignified even when her people insulted him. She had prepared herself to hate him, to endure this marriage as a necessary sacrifice. But now she did not know what to feel. In 2 weeks, she would marry this human captain. This strange, warm-skinned being who looked at her with sad, kind eyes. This warrior who had watched his friends die and still believed in protecting others. Lyra Sen touched her own arm, feeling the cool crystal surface of her skin. Then she remembered the warmth of his hand in hers. Two completely different beings, forced together by politics and war. She wondered if he was lying awake too, thinking about her, wondering what kind of person she really was beneath the royal mask. Tomorrow, they would meet again for the first scheduled visit. Protocol required them to spend time together each day until the wedding. The thought made her nervous, but also strangely curious. Maybe, just maybe, this would not be as terrible as she feared. The first meeting happened in a neutral sitting room, designed for both species. Lyra Sen arrived exactly on time, her skin carefully controlled to show calm blue. Taeyang was already there, standing by the window and looking out at the stars. He turned when she entered and bowed respectfully. "Your Highness," he said in Valerian, still struggling with the pronunciation. "You may speak in your own language," Lyra Sen said in perfect human standard. "I have studied it." Surprise crossed his face, then something that looked like relief. "Thank you. That is kind of you." They sat down across from each other, a small table between them. An awkward silence filled the room. Neither seemed to know what to say. A human cultural liaison named Yuna had left refreshments for both species, but neither touched them. Finally, Taeyang spoke. "I know what your people think of humans. Short-lived, primitive, warlike. And you are not completely wrong. Compared to Valerians, we are all those things." Lyra Sen's skin flickered with surprise at his honesty. "So I understand," he continued, "why this situation is difficult for you. Why you might wish you could refuse. I feel the same way. You did not want this marriage either?" Lyra Sen asked carefully. "No," he admitted. "I am a soldier, not a diplomat. I am better at flying ships than talking to people, especially royal people from another species." He smiled slightly, sadly. "But my superiors explained that 40,000 human colonists on the border worlds get to keep their homes if I agree to this. That makes the choice easy." Lyra Sen stared at him. "You agreed to give up your freedom for strangers? They are not strangers. They are my people. That is what soldiers do. We sacrifice, so others do not have to." Something in Lyra Sen's chest tightened. She understood that feeling perfectly. "I made the same choice. My mother said this marriage would bring peace. How could I refuse, when so many Valerian lives depend on it?" Their eyes met across the table, and suddenly the awkward silence felt different. Less uncomfortable. More like understanding. "We are both trapped by duty," Taeyang said quietly. "Yes," Lyra Sen agreed. "We are." After that first honest conversation, the meetings became easier. Each day, they would sit together for several hours, talking about safer topics. Lyra Sen taught him proper Valerian pronunciation. Taeyang explained human customs and culture. Slowly, carefully, they began to know each other. One afternoon, Taeyang brought a small music player. "I thought you might like to hear some human music. It is very different from Valerian compositions." He played a song, something with stringed instruments and a human voice singing words about loss and hope. Lyra Sen listened carefully, her skin shifting colors with the emotional melody. "It is so raw," she said when it ended. "Valerian music is more controlled, more mathematical. This is all emotion. That is very human," Taeyang said with a small smile. "We feel everything intensely because we do not have much time." Lyra Sen thought about that. Valarians were taught to control their feelings, to think long-term, to be patient because they had centuries to work with. Humans burned bright and fast because they had to. "Teach me more," she said suddenly, "about being human." Taeyang looked surprised but pleased. "If you teach me about being Valerian," they made a deal. Each day, they would share something from their cultures. Taeyang showed her human food, which tasted strange but interesting. She taught him Valerian meditation techniques. He explained human humor, which often made no sense but sometimes made her laugh. She showed him the color language of Valerian skin, explaining what each shade meant. So blue is calm, Taeyang said, studying her carefully. And purple is curiosity. What about red? Meaning, anger or passion, Lyrasen explained. And yellow is happiness. What about the color you turned when we first met? When you took my hand? It was multiple colors at once. Lyrasen's skin immediately flickered with those same colors again, just from the memory. That was confusion. I had not expected you to be so different from what I imagined. Different how? She hesitated, then decided to be honest. I expected someone cruel. Someone who would enjoy having power over a Valerian princess. But you were kind. And respectful. And nervous. Taeyang laughed softly. I was very nervous. I still am. I have never met royalty before, let alone married one. I am just a person, Lyrasen said. The title does not change that. That is good to know, he said, and his smile was genuine. One evening, about a week before the wedding, Lyrasen went to the station's observation deck. It was late, and she thought she would be alone, but when she arrived, she found Taeyang already there. Standing at the windows and looking at the stars, she almost left, not wanting to intrude. But something about the way he stood there, so still and sad, made her stay. May I join you? She asked quietly. He turned, and she saw tears in his eyes. He quickly wiped them away. Of course, Your Highness. Lyra, she said. When we are alone, you can call me Lyra. He nodded. Then please call me Taeyang. No titles. They stood side by side, looking out at the stars in silence. Lyrasen noticed her skin was dark blue, the color of sadness. She tried to control it, but could not. Today is the anniversary of the Battle of Proxima Gate, Taeyang said quietly. The day I lost my squadron. All 12 of them. I keep thinking, if I had given different orders, maybe some of them would have survived. Lyrasen felt her heart's ache for him. You saved thousands of civilians, I know. But it does not stop me from missing my friends. He was quiet for a moment. Do Valerians understand grief? When you live so long, does death mean less? No, Lyrasen said firmly. Death always matters. My brother died 5 years ago, defending a colony from raiders. I still think about him every day. Time does not heal that wound. It just makes it familiar. Taeyang looked at her with understanding in his eyes. I am sorry for your loss, and I am sorry for yours. They stood there together, two people grieving their dead, finding comfort in shared silence. Taeyang did not try to fix her sadness or tell her to stop being sad. He just stayed beside her, present and understanding. After a long while, Lyrasen spoke. In Valerian culture, we are taught to outlast everything, to watch civilizations rise and fall, and know that we will remain. But you, humans, are different. You burn so bright because you know your time is short. I think I am beginning to understand that now. Maybe it is not weakness, Taeyang said thoughtfully. Maybe both ways of living have value. Lyrasen's skin shifted to soft amber, the color of curiosity and growing respect. Yes, maybe they do. When she returned to her quarters that night, Lady Nelvith noticed immediately. Your colors have been more vibrant these past days, Your Highness. Have they? Lyrasen asked, though she knew it was true. Yes. And you smile more. That human captain is good for you. Lyrasen did not argue. It was true. Somehow, in just 1 week, Taeyang had become more than just the stranger she was being forced to marry. He had become someone she actually enjoyed talking to, someone who understood her in ways she had not expected. In 6 days, they would be married. The thought still made her nervous, but the fear was fading. In its place was something else, something warm and hopeful, like the first light of dawn. 3 days before the wedding, Lyra Sen woke to alarms screaming throughout Unity's Hope Station. Her training took over immediately. She jumped from bed, already reaching for her emergency equipment. Lady Nelvith burst into the room, her crystalline skin flashing red with alarm. "Your Highness, we are under attack. Valerian ships. Lord Kevrath has declared this wedding an insult to the Empire, and is attempting to stop it by force." Lyrasen's blood ran cold. Lord Kevrath was a powerful noble who believed humans were inferior beings, unworthy of alliance with Valara. She knew he opposed the marriage, but she never thought he would start a rebellion. "Where is Captain Te Yang?" she demanded. "The humans are gathering at Section 7. Our people are at Section 3. We need to get you to safety." "No," Lyrasen said firmly. "I need to get to the command center." She ran through the corridors, Nelvith close behind. Other people rushed past them, some human, some Valerian, all looking frightened. The station shook as weapons fire hit the outer shields. Then the lights went out. Emergency lighting flickered on, bathing everything in red. "The defense grid is down," Nelvith whispered. "They sabotaged it from inside. There must be traitors on the station." Before Lyra Sen could respond, she heard the sound of weapons fire nearby. A group of Valerian soldiers in Kevrath's colors rounded the corner, their weapons raised. "Princess Lyrasen," their leader called out. "Lord Kevrath commands you to come with us. You will not marry this human." "I am a princess of the Empire," Lyrasen said coldly, her skin hardening into crystal armor. "You do not command me." The soldiers raised their weapons. Lyrasen prepared to fight, but suddenly, someone crashed into the soldiers from the side. It was Te Yang, moving with lethal precision. His combat training was obvious as he disarmed two soldiers before they could react. "Run," he shouted at Lyrasen, but she did not run. Instead, she joined the fight, using Valerian combat techniques she had learned as a child. Her crystalline skin turned into natural armor, deflecting weapon strikes. Side by side, she and Te Yang fought off the attackers. More soldiers came. Too many. Te Yang grabbed Lyrasen's arm and pulled her into a side corridor. They ran together, hearing shouting behind them. "We need to get to the command center," Lyrasen said. "If we can restore communications, we can call for help." "I know a shortcut," Te Yang said. "Follow me." They moved through maintenance tunnels and emergency passages. Other people were hiding in the corridors. Civilians from both species who were trapped by the fighting. Te Yang and Lyrasen helped them find safe rooms and seal the doors. "We cannot leave them," Lyrasen said, when Te Yang tried to hurry her along. "I know," he replied, and she saw approval in his eyes. They were almost at the command center when they ran into a larger group of Kevrath soldiers. This time, there was no avoiding them. The soldiers opened fire immediately. Te Yang pushed Lyrasen behind cover, just as plasma bolts flew past them. They were pinned down, trapped in a corridor with enemies on one side and a locked bulkhead on the other. "I can break through the bulkhead," Lyrasen said. "Valerian crystal is stronger than this metal. But I need time." "I will buy you time," Te Yang said. He checked his weapon and prepared to move. "No, wait," Lyrasen grabbed his arm. "There are too many. You will be killed." He looked at her with those sad, kind eyes she had come to know so well. "That is what soldiers do, remember? We sacrifice so others do not have to." Before she could argue, he moved out from cover, drawing the soldiers' attention and their fire. Lyrasen wanted to scream at him to come back, but she knew she had to trust him. She turned to the bulkhead and began striking it with her crystal-hardened fists, each blow denting the metal. Behind her, she heard weapons fire and Te Yang's grunts of effort. She worked faster, desperately trying to break through. The bulkhead finally gave way just as she heard Te Yang cry out in pain. She spun around and saw him falling. A plasma bolt, having struck his shoulder. The soldiers were advancing, weapons raised to finish him. Something inside Lyrasen broke. Her skin flashed brilliant red, brighter than it had ever been. Pure rage and fear flooded through her. She moved faster than she thought possible, placing herself between Tae-yang and the soldiers. Valerian combat training took over completely. She fought with everything she had, her crystal armor deflecting their shots while she struck back with devastating force. The soldiers had not expected a royal princess to fight like a warrior. They fell back, surprised and overwhelmed. More Valerian soldiers arrived, but these wore imperial colors. They were loyal to her mother, sent to rescue her. Together, they drove back Kevroth's forces. When the fighting finally stopped, Lyrasen dropped to her knees beside Tae-yang. He was breathing hard. His shoulder burned badly from the plasma hit. His face was pale with pain. "You fool," she whispered, her skin cycling through colors rapidly. Fear, desperation, something much deeper. "You could have died, but you are safe," he managed to say, trying to smile. "That is what matters." "And, no," Lyrasen said fiercely. "You matter too." Human medical officer Jia arrived with her team. They quickly assessed Tae-yang's injuries and loaded him onto a stretcher. "We need to get him to the medical bay immediately. The burn is severe." "Ops, we're 17 reading model." "I am coming with you," Lyrasen said, standing up. "Your Highness, you should rest," Jia protested. "I am coming," Lyrasen repeated, her voice leaving no room for argument. In the medical bay, she sat beside Tae-yang's bed while Jia worked to treat his wounds. The burn was bad, but not fatal. He would recover, though it would take time and leave a scar. Ambassador Haewon arrived with Admiral Da-un and several other officials. They explained that Kevroth's rebellion had been crushed. Both Valerian and human forces had worked together to stop the traitors. But Lyrasen barely heard them. She was holding Tae-yang's hand, watching his chest rise and fall as he slept under sedation. Her skin had been glowing rose gold for hours, and she knew what that color meant. She had studied it herself when teaching Tae-yang about Valerian color language. Rose gold meant love. Deep, true love. Lady Nelvith came to sit beside her. "Your Highness," she said gently, "you should rest. He will be fine." "I know what my skin color means," Lyrasen said quietly. "I cannot control it anymore. I do not want to control it." Nelvith smiled sadly. "When did you know?" "When I saw him fall. When I thought he might die. In that moment, I realized I could not lose him. Not now. Not ever." Lyrasen looked at her attendant, with tears in her eyes. "He is supposed to be a stranger. A duty I had to fulfill. How did he become so important to me?" "Schemer. Schemer. Perhaps because he saw you as a person, not just a princess. And you saw him as a person, not just a human." Lyrasen nodded, unable to speak past the tightness in her throat. She held Tae-yang's hand tighter and watched over him through the night. When he finally woke the next morning, groggy from medication, the first thing he saw was Lyrasen sitting beside him. Her skin was still glowing rose gold. "Lyra," he whispered, using her name for the first time without being asked. "Your color. What does it mean?" She looked at him with everything she felt showing clearly on her face and in her crystalline skin. "It means I do not want this marriage to be just duty anymore. It means when you almost died." My heart stopped. "It means I choose you, Tae-yang. Not because I have to. Because I want to." His eyes widened, then filled with emotion. "I choose you too," he said softly. "I think I have been falling for you since that first day, when you took my hand, and I felt how afraid you were, but how brave you stayed anyway." Lyrasen leaned down and carefully, gently, pressed her forehead to his in a Valerian gesture of deep affection. They did not need to. Tae-yang recovered over the next 3 days. Lyrasen never left his side except when forced to by medical staff. Lyrasen, Tae-yang, Tae-yang, Tae-yang. She sat beside his bed, holding his hand, her skin glowing that constant rose gold that she could no longer hide. The medical staff and visitors all noticed. But she did not care anymore. Who knew? On the morning of the wedding, Empress Kiravel arrived at the station. She came directly to the medical bay, where Taeyang was finishing his recovery. Lyra Sen stood when her mother entered, but did not leave Taeyang's bedside. The Empress looked at her daughter for a long moment, seeing the rose-gold glow of her skin. Then she looked at Taeyang, who tried to stand and bow despite his injured shoulder. She raised a hand, stopping him. "Stay seated, Captain. You have earned the right to rest." The Empress turned to Lyra Sen. "My daughter, walk with me." It was not a request. Lyra Sen squeezed Taeyang's hand once, then followed her mother into a private chamber. When the door closed behind them, the Empress studied her daughter's face carefully. "Your skin has not changed color in 3 days," the Empress observed. "Rose gold. The color of deep love." "I cannot control it, Mother," Lyra Sen admitted. "And I do not want to anymore." The Empress sat down slowly. And for the first time, Lyra Sen saw her mother looking old and tired. "I need to tell you something. Something I have never told anyone." Lyra Sen sat across from her, waiting. 300 years ago, when I was young like you, I knew a human. His name was Marcus. He was a diplomat working on one of the border worlds. We met during negotiations between our peoples, and I fell in love with him." Lyra Sen's eyes widened in shock. Her mother had never mentioned this before. "But I was afraid," the Empress continued, her skin flickering with old pain. "Afraid of what others would say. Afraid of watching him age and die while I remained young. Afraid that loving someone so temporary would only bring pain. So, I walked away. I chose duty over love, and I married a Valerian nobleman as expected." "What happened to Marcus?" Lyra Sen asked quietly. "He lived a good life. Married a human woman, had children, grew old. I watched from a distance, and when he died, 70 years after I last spoke to him, I felt like part of me died too. I have lived 300 years since then, Lyra Sen, and not one day has passed that I do not regret my choice." Tears filled Lyra Sen's eyes. "Then why did you arrange this marriage? Why force me into the same situation?" "Because I hoped you would be braver than I was. I hoped you would see what I was too afraid to accept. That a short, bright flame can matter more than 1,000 years of cold emptiness. That 50 or 60 years with someone you love is worth more than eternity alone." The Empress stood and took her daughter's hands. "But I need you to understand what you are choosing. Taeyang will age. In 20 years, he will start to look old while you still look young. In 50 years, he will be an elderly man while you are still in your youth. And then he will die, and you will have centuries of life left to live without him. Can you accept that pain?" And Lyra Sen thought about the past 2 weeks. About learning to know Taeyang. About laughing with him over cultural misunderstandings. About standing beside him in the observation deck, sharing grief. About the terror she felt when she thought he might die. "You taught me something, Mother," Lyra Sen said firmly. "You taught me that we, Valarians, outlast everything. We watch civilizations rise and fall. We endure. If I can endure centuries, then I can endure the pain of losing him. Because the alternative is never having him at all. And that would be worse." The Empress's skin flickered with pride and sadness mixed together. "Then, you have my blessing. Not as Empress, but as your mother. Choose love, my daughter, and do not waste a single moment of the time you have together." They embraced, and Lyra Sen felt her mother's tears on her shoulder. The wedding took place that evening. Unity's Hope Station had been repaired from the attack, and now it was decorated with flowers and lights from both human and Valerian cultures. Representatives from dozens of species attended, wanting to witness this historic moment. Lyra Sen wore traditional Valerian wedding attire, her crystalline skin set to the ceremonial white gold color, but underneath, the rose gold glow kept showing through. making her shimmer with both traditional and true colors. When she walked into the ceremony hall, she saw Taeyang waiting at the altar. He wore his formal military uniform, and quote, his injured shoulder carefully bandaged beneath. When he saw her, his eyes filled with tears and wonder. The ceremony was a blend of both their customs. Valerian priests and human officiants took turns speaking about unity, understanding, and the power of choosing love across differences. When it came time for vows, Taeyang spoke first. His voice shook slightly with emotion, but his words were clear and strong. Lyrasen, Princess of Valara. I know I cannot give you forever. My life is short compared to yours. But I promise you this. Every day I have, I will choose you. Every moment we share, I will treasure. And when my time comes to leave this life, you will know that you were loved completely, truly, without reservation. Lyrasen felt tears running down her face, something Valarians rarely did in public, but she did not care. When she spoke, she switched to Korean, the language she had been secretly studying. Taeyang, you showed me that a lifetime is not measured in years, but in moments that matter. You taught me to burn bright instead of just enduring. I promise to treasure every day we have together. And when you are gone, I will carry everything you taught me forward. But that is tomorrow's sorrow. Today, we are here, together, and I choose you, now and always. Around them, people from both species were crying. Even Ambassador Haewon wiped tears from her eyes. They exchanged rings in human tradition and touched foreheads in Valerian tradition. When the ceremony ended and they were declared married, Taeyang carefully cupped Lyrasen's face and kissed her gently. Her skin exploded into brilliant rainbow colors, cycling through every emotion at once: joy, love, hope, peace. The celebration lasted late into the night. Humans and Valarians danced together, ate together, celebrated together. The peace treaty was signed officially, sealed not just by politics but by the genuine connection between two people who chose to love across all differences. Later, when the celebrations finally ended, Lyrasen and Taeyang slipped away to the observation deck. They stood at the windows, looking at the stars just as they had done before. But now, they stood hand in hand, husband and wife. Lyra, Taeyang said quietly, your people will outlast mine by millennia. When I am gone, when all humans are eventually gone, Valerians will still be here. I cannot help thinking about that, about leaving you alone. Lyrasen turned to face him, placing her hand on his chest and feeling his heartbeat. When you are gone, I will carry forward everything you taught me. I will remember that every moment matters. I will teach others about the human who showed me how to truly live. Your life will matter beyond your years because of what you leave behind. And what am I leaving behind? Me, she said simply. Changed forever because I knew you. That is immortality, Taeyang. Not living forever yourself, but living on in the hearts you touch. He pulled her close, and they stood there together. Two beings from different worlds who had found common ground in shared sacrifice, mutual respect, and unexpected love. 6 months later, they served together as co-ambassadors, traveling between human and Valerian worlds. Wherever they went, they showed both civilizations that understanding was possible. That differences could become strengths. That love could bridge even the widest gaps. Lyrasen's skin still glowed rose gold whenever Taeyang was near. People got used to seeing the Valerian princess, who could not hide her love for her human husband. And Taeyang, who had been a soldier trained for war, learned to be a man who built bridges instead. One evening, as they prepared for sleep in their quarters on a Valerian diplomatic ship, Taeyang noticed Lyrasen reading medical journals on human longevity research. What are you studying? He asked. Human medicine has made impressive advances in extending life, she said carefully. I thought perhaps I could learn about it. Not to make you immortal, but maybe we could have more years together than expected. Taeyang came to sit beside her, taking the tablet from her hands and setting it aside. Lyra, I would love more years with you. But do not forget what you taught me. Every moment matters. Whether we have 50 years or 80 years, let us make each day count. She leaned against him, feeling the warmth of his human body against her cooler crystalline form. You are right. I just want more time with you. Then let us not waste the time we have worrying about the time we do not have, he said gently. Lyrasen smiled and kissed him. Her skin glowed brighter with rose gold light, filling the room with a soft, loving radiance. Tomorrow, they would continue their work building peace between their peoples. Tomorrow, they would face whatever challenges came. But tonight, they were simply two people in love, making the most of every precious moment they had together. And that, Lyrasen realized, was more valuable than all the centuries she would live. Some loves, she had learned, were worth any price, even the pain of eventual loss, because the joy of having Taeyang in her life made every moment shine brighter than stars.